What's up, guys?
Hi. Excuse me.
I'm back.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Are you guys all good? You guys all ready to go?
I think so. Do you hear an echo or anything? No?
Yeah, no, there's a terrible echo now that ViBE got back on.
Are you guys watching the stream again?
I am, but you're muted.
I'm watching the Discord right now, and my mic is not turning on when you guys are talking, but I could use a push to talk. I don't think it's me echoing personally, but I can always use push to talk to make it easier.
Sounds good here.
Wait, how can I hear you if your mic's not on in Twitch?
So I have two microphones. I have a microphone for Discord and I have a microphone for Twitch. So if you are watching the stream, you're gonna always hear playback while I'm because you're gonna hear me now because the stream's not instant. So you hear me now on Discord and then like 5 seconds later you hear me on the stream after.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm good. Are you guys all good? Does it sound good to you guys?
Ready.
Yeah.
Ready.
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, I'm online. If you, I think you guys want to jump into replays. So if you guys want to make a whole party, we can jump into it and I can talk about your games and give you some ideas.
Oh, are we all doing a party? I guess we could all do a party. I'm not in StarCraft.
You should start without me. I won't join because some audio software has just tanked my computer. So I'm on my phone now.
All right.
Okay. Well, you can still watch the stream though.
Totally.
Sorry, we have like 4 times the number of technical problems.
It's all good. No worries. It's kind of how it goes. The more people you get, the more usually things like this happen where it's just chaos.
So we've actually been noticing this in our 4v4 games.
Yeah, right.
By the way, I invite you to the StarCraft party.
Okay, so easiest way to do it would be because like I would say just like join a channel, but it never works because Blizzard's system's really bad. So if you just go to the Grandmaster ladder list, you can send me a direct message that way really easy. And if you don't know how to do it, all you gotta do, it's like 3 button clicks. You just click top right in your little avatar portrait, you just left click it. It opens your profile. And then on the left side where it says ladders, just click that in the same spot twice. It'll go ladders, Grandmaster. And then on that list, you can just drag it down to rank 66, which is what I'm right now. And you can right click my name and send me a message, and then you can invite me that way. It's every time I'm like, join a channel, everyone's like, I can't see you. I can't see anything. So yeah, it just makes it harder. All right, cool. And then you can watch with others on replays with as many people as you want. So however many of you guys want to join. And I'm good to go when you guys are. I'm chilling.
Alright.
And then before you start, make me the lobby host in the replay so I can bounce around. All right, perfect. Are you guys ready? Should we wait or should we go?
Mike, you good?
I'm
Mike?
good. I think, yeah, Mike
Was
just
that
logged.
We're
Mike?
good
I
to
don't
go.
know.
Mike just logged out. He'll probably be right back. So.
Yeah, sure. I don't mind waiting.
Yeah.
He did say go without him just a second.
Yeah,
ago.
okay. We can go.
I think we're good.
All right, so
Yeah.
give me a quick. You guys can all talk right now if you want to. I can get a story from each one of you, but give me like an idea really fast before we really jump into this as to like how you guys like to play 4v4s together. Like, what's your overall strategy of what you like want to do?
We don't have a strategy. It changes. Sometimes we try to macro. Sometimes we try to rush. None of it really works. I think we were just hoping to get like a consistent something. I think we tried to macro in this game, did we?
Yeah, I would say we all watch the Beta GM series, and so we start at it from a macro strategy, but realized 4 people all macroing is really hard, and then we usually get rushed and lose.
Okay.
Yeah,
and there
and
aren't
we
enough
get
cases for us to
distracted.
effectively.
I think
expand.
individually, most of us macro, and Mike cannon rushes frequently, but not always.
Okay.
How dare you?
All right, sounds good.
I'm like,
So, what I would say one of the best ways you can do 4v4 is basically what you're gonna want to kind of go for is you all are gonna want to synergize like aggression together, or if you're not gonna do that, the only time you can ever have like, let's say like one guy is like, you know what, I'm gonna be the only one who's aggressive. It needs to be something that's very, I guess the best way to say this is like supported by something that's gonna at least harass. Because if you guys all just go, you know what, let's all macro, and one guy just goes for an all-in, that guy is going to not, he's probably not going to get anything done because he's going to be trying to all-in 4 people basically at the same time. And because they all can support each other if they're all close together like this. And if there's no support coming from any one of you guys, like for instance, like a cannon rush, a lone cannon rush, and that's it. The only way that would ever work is if like you're really good about putting pylons in like spots where you can wall workers out, and you do it right in his face to where the first cannon can like deny the mineral line, and you don't have to like leapfrog it forward or something.
Okay, I think we do that actually. I think we do tend to split. Like half of us might go early, half of us later, and that sounds like it's bad.
Yeah, well, like it would have to be. It would have to be something like this. Like for instance, if you were gonna cannon rush in 4v4, and let's just say, like look at Blue's base, okay, like Josh's base, and you see how there's like a cliff on the left side of his command center, and you could put cannons in the fog of war right there. You could like literally put a cannon that's below the gas, that's below the cliff that would shoot the mineral line that he has, and that would be a ninja way to do it, to start that up. But that would need to be supported by like an overlord or like a reaper, or maybe have something that could then punch a hole into the ramp to allow you to then climb the cannon rush deeper into the base. Because if no one helps with that and it just sits there, it's like, and then like the probe runs up the ramp and it's walled, and you're like, oh well, can't do anything now. It's like, okay, well, the cannon rush is a total failure now. So it has to be supported essentially. Like you have to support each other if you're going to be aggressive. And if you don't want to be, that's fine. It's just you guys should do timings then, I would say. So all aggression or all timing is how you should do it.
Okay.
So and you guys, just to be clear here, sorry, I didn't see in the lobby. You guys are on the Granny clan, right? Just because you're all 4 here, or are you guys actually?
Yeah, we're all grannies.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what I would say, if you guys actually don't play random at all, and you legit are always Protoss, Terran, Zerg. Is that correct, or do any of you guys play random a lot?
Nope, but that's basically always it.
Okay, so what I would say a great way you guys could play this out would be something like this, just before we even get into it. And when we get into it in a second here, I'll probably look at your builds and be like, okay, you could probably fix this, probably fix that. But a great way to play this out would be like 2 of you, 1 or 2 of you. At the very least, it has to be 1 of you, but maybe even 2 of you can go for some type of an air pressure. And then the other 1 or 2 of you could definitely need to go for some type of like a early game composition that's going to just keep you alive early. That's going to make you not die to a early rush from your opponents. And then the final thing you can do is, again, like 1 of you can probably tech, and because you don't have to always have someone tech, you don't have to always have 2 people going air, but 1 person should go air, 1 person should at least get some early ground units, and then 1 person can always tech if you want to. So like the Protoss, for instance, could be the guy who goes, you know what, I'm gonna go DTs really fast, or the Protoss could be like, you know what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go for an Oracle rush on like 2 of them or 3 of them, and just go crazy Oracles. Or the Protoss could be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go for a couple sentries and just mass blink stalkers. Like, these would be great ways to play a 4v4, because those are 3 different jobs. But that's probably the easiest way you can break 4v4 down, is through those 3 avenues. It's early game control, it's mid game air control, or it's super greedy tech. And if, for instance, if you all go for like super greedy tech, you'll die to a rush. If 2 of you go for super greedy tech, you probably would again die to a rush. You could really only fix it by probably like 1 person in doing something like that, because that person is literally useless for the first like 6 minutes. Now for like a Zergs could do something like this. You could literally go for some type of a Ling Bane support style. That's not super full standing to be like, it's alone gonna just be very effective, but it would be great if you paired it with like maybe Stalker Sentry. That's why I say if you do like maybe 1 or 2, like that would be a great addition to like Stalker. And this person could eventually go to something else if they wanted to. Like, anything you want. But you could just open with, like, Ling Bane, something like that, just for the start. You could... A great way to have the Zerg be the one who just alone really just mostly defends the base if you guys are doing other things. If you're going to have a lone standing Zerg just kind of do their own thing. Early game, Roach Ravager. You have to go Roach Ravager. And that's, like, it's very durable. It's solid early on to be able to control stuff. For the early game, it's like the equivalent of Stalker Sentry for Protoss. If the Zerg wants to play mid-game air, obviously it's just going to be Mutas. Mutas are probably one of the most amazing units in 4v4, because it can kill economies repeatedly. It's just super fucking good. And then if you want to go late game Zerg, or like a super tech rush style Zerg, Zerg is probably the least effective at this because it takes so long for Zerg to do this effectively. But Zerg could tech to like, I don't know, like if they're going mass air, Zerg could go into Viper, Zerg could go into like Infestor, some type of a spellcaster, Zerg could go into Swarm Hosts. But the only reason why Zerg's not as good as Protoss or Terran at doing this is because if you tech with Zerg, if you have, let's say you just have like 4 Swarm Hosts with like a Nidus, it's not nearly as effective as like 4 DTs. Like tech units for Zerg need to be made in number, and that usually means Zerg needs to be more expanded, have more bases, just have more supply. So Zerg generally fits better in the role of Roach Ravager or Mutas. Just so like if you both wanted to go Roach Ravager, or if one Zerg wanted to go Roach Ravager, the other one wanted to go quick Muta, both of those would be fine. And then finally for Terran, again, the same exact thing. You could fit your roles of, you could open up with some type of a bio opener, which would be good. It's again the equivalent of Stalker Sentry or Roach Ravager early on. It could be like Marine Marauder opener. You could go into quick battle mech, which again kind of fills the role of, it's a little bit of a hybrid. It still fills the role of like Roach Ravager and Stalker Sentry is. If you just go quick Cyclone Hillian, to a degree, it's a little more risky, but it still fits kind of that same role. It's just early game stability. Terran could also go for like mid game control of, you know, like we're talking like Liberator pressure, Banshee pressure, Raven pressure, all these weird kinds of things. Or Terran could be the guy who rushes for like, you know, in-game tech, which is you could go for like something like BCs really fast, or and the teleport around bases and stuff like that, and be really annoying. And just, this is a huge thing too, this is a huge thing. Just know, early game defense is all about, like early game control of like your Roach Ravager, Stalker Sentry, bio openers, whatever. Those are, in 4v4, those are about controlling your defense, okay? Always control your defense. Unless you're all ready to push together, then obviously you can go attack. But if you're not, if one of you guys are doing one job and the other one's doing something else, whoever's making the early game units needs to defend. Do not go attack.
Oh,
the other one is the mid game player who goes for the air pressure.
Lucky number 11 ViBE.
You always want to be going for economy harassment. Do not try to fight army. Always go for economy harassment if you're by yourself. Never try to fight army unless it's like you have 15 mutas killing like 2 siege tanks that have nothing there. Then that's okay, but kill them quickly and move on. Don't try to fight enemy units. If there's ever a fight that's gonna happen where you're gonna have to actually engage and maybe lose some of your units, run away every time. Do not ever fight them by yourself, because that's how you're gonna lose the game and you're gonna lose the ability to control your opponents. And then lastly, the person who tech rushes all the way to whatever tech you want to go for, again, you kill economy. So the people who basically fight by themselves always kill economy. You never fight army. And that's one of the problems I think most people make in team games, is that it's like one guy trying to solo the team, and he's like, yeah, I got no fight with one guy, then 3 more showed up, and I couldn't run away, and I died. It's like, well, don't fucking fight their armies. Only kill the workers, and then if you're by yourself, and then only fight armies if you're together. And that's literally just a crash course breakdown on how it goes.
Okay, yeah, that is definitely a problem we got going on there, so.
Okay, so do you guys have any questions so far about anything I just said?
Yes, you did such a good job outlining, like, with real baby steps, what to do for sort of illustrating, like, early, mid-tech strategies for Zerg and Terran. Could you do the same thing for Protoss?
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. So Protoss, if you're going to be the early game guy, yeah, you just want to open up with, like, we're talking 1 gate core, and then you'll probably go into, like, 4 gate Stalker Sentry, and you'd probably stop making sentries at, like, 4 sentries, and just make, like, just mass make Stalkers. And the other reason why you would want to make like 4 sentries is because it would allow you to occasionally throw out like a hallucinated Phoenix, so you could become the scout for the team. That could just, so like Zergs have overlords too or whatever, but you could scout and just see like, oh, look at that guy's mineral line, it's wide open. Look at that guy's mineral line, it's wide open. So your air pressure player could go to those mineral lines and be like, cool, now I'm gonna definitely get some damage done, or something like that. And then it's just literally just mass stalkers, mass stalkers, mass stalkers, until you have control of the game. And then you would be able to text with something else. You could tech into like, you could add in Colossus, you could add in Immortals, you could add in whatever the hell you want to go into. Once your air players take control of the game, and your tech player takes control of the game if you go down that route. You don't have to go tech with someone on your team, but you do need to go for someone in air. That is required. And 4v4. Now, if you don't play the early game and you're the guy, let's say you're the guy who goes Mass Phoenix, well then now your Zerg players probably need to tell you with like Overlords or something like that. Like, okay, yo, you probably fly your oracles or whatever you're gonna do with air units. Like, go over here and go harass this, or your Phoenix, anything you do, whatever air unit you want to make. And if you're the guy who then after you go air, let's say you go for the control air aspect of the game. Once you feel like you have good control and you have, let's say you have like 12 Phoenix, you can switch that into like carriers and go for a death ball, and that'd be great. That'd be super good. And if you don't play the air style and you're the guy who goes for like DT rush, you are literally like a little baby duck that's defenseless until your DTs are out, so your teammates need to cover you. So you can't do shit until it's time for your DTs to be ready. And about the only thing you could do to make your life a little bit easier when you're ready to do the timing is maybe like run a probe across the map and maybe try to hide a pylon, so that when you're ready to throw DTs at their base, you could do it through a faster means of having a pylon in there. Or if you want to use a warp prism, that's totally fine too. You would just want to go DT tech first and then go warp prism second. And then while you do DT rush, you could once again always transition into something that's going to be stable for the team late game. And now I'll explain every race for that. If you guys have control of the game and you're the ones who are winning, obviously if you win, that's wonderful and the game's over. But if you're not able to close the game out, Protoss should always somehow try to sneak into a carrier army. If you can, like carrier with like maybe Templar with Storm. If you can do that, like have like 5 Templars with Storm and just a carrier and maybe even a mothership, like Skytoss essentially, that is the best army you can make to support your team with. Terran, the best army you can make for Terran, when it gets to the end of the game, would be Battlecruiser army, literally. Just BCs and maybe add in a couple Ravens or something. And that's a wonderful army. And also Terran should be the one who leads the fight with scans, and Zerg can lead the fight with changelings, so you guys can always scout ahead of where you're going before you actually just run blindly into your opponents.
Oh, yeah.
So Terran literally is simple, BCs. Just make BCs.
ViBE,
and
you're a big slut.
And then Zerg in-game armies that you want to make. Zerg is a little bit different. Zerg can stay on like mid-game army style compositions because you're like the beef of the army. You're just like what kind of dies, essentially. It's just kind of how Zerg's life is. You just kind of die in team games. But you can get damage done in the process. Zergs can be like, you can have a guy just literally on Road Ravager the entire game. And he can just throw Corrosive Vials all over the opponent's army repeatedly, because Corrosive Vial is amazing the more clumpy your opponent's armies are. It does ridiculous damage. It's super good. So you could just have a bunch of Road Ravager in there, and it could just, Corrosive Vial, that's fine. You could go just mass ultras. That'd be fine too. That's just like another form of ground control with AoE. And if you want to go for like a supreme death ball type thing, you could be the guy who just, I would say if you have a teammate, probably go like mass Broodlords. And you could add in some like Viper if you wanted to. But you don't need to be like a standard army of like Corrupt or Broodlord. Because all you have to do is you could have the Broods initially lead the fight, and then Carrier Battlecruiser are what covers you. And then, so you don't need to be like, oh, I gotta go Corruptor 2, and that's normal for Zerg in like 1v1 to do that, but mass Broods would be super good. And that's kind of how your in-game transitions right there for all 3 races.
Yep.
How you guys
Cool,
feeling?
thanks.
How you feeling?
I'm good. How are you guys feeling?
Great, thanks.
Okay. All right, we can jump into actually watching your game now, and I'll look at each one of your playstyles and see like. So I wanted you to really know that before we really talked, like I wanted to say this kind of stuff before we went into this, because I imagine, even if you guys are losing like all the time, it's probably going to be a mess, and I'll try to help each one of you out as much as I can. And one thing I could do too, like if you guys want to do this really fast after we go through this replay, is I could give you an example build, kind of like what I do in Beta GM, where if you're like, I want to do the Roach build, I want to do the DT build, I want to do the Phoenix build, whatever. If you each pick one, I can give you an example build really quick, 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 in each one of those.
Yes.
And yeah, so
yeah, this is definitely going to be a huge mess,
Okay.
and I think we would like an example build. Yeah.
Sure. So I'll go through this really fast then. So I'll give you example builds after. I won't specifically critique each one of you super hard, because that could take like an hour.
If you have any sedatives on hand, you might just take them before you watch this, because it's going to make you angry.
Okay.
We're that bad.
No, it's okay. I'm going in this with a good mindset of I'm expecting a lot of problems, so it's okay.
Cool.
All right, so I mean, you guys have at least the right idea where the non-Zerg players should definitely be walling the ramp. You always want to be doing that. Because if you don't wall the ramp, this is actually a big deal, okay? If you guys ever all agree and you go, all right, let's all in this game. Let's all just do it all in together. And you're like, okay, yeah, let's all in. You don't need to wall the ramp then. And it's actually better if you don't, because it makes your units not traffic jam as hard in the doorway of your base. And it also makes your mining a little bit better because you don't have to run so far away to build your buildings. So if you all want all in, just don't wall. It's fine. And then you all just build at your base and do it as fast as you can. Or proxy, even. And that'd be great. So just know that if you're going to macro, though, if you're going to play more standard, walling is required. So I'm glad you guys are already doing it at least. That's really good.
Yeah, we learned that the hard way, I think.
Yeah. So here's another, I'm just going to give you ideas here, okay? The way you're opening right now with this wall, where if you guys are going to go for extra expansions, or if you're going to have, if you're not going to have at least 2 people, okay? This is really, really, really important. If you're not going to have at least 2 people, go for the ground-based armies. So if you're just going to have one is required, by the way. So if only one person's going to do it, the Protoss player, if the Protoss player is not the one going for, like, you know, Stalker Sentry, the fact that you open up with a Forge and you add in, like, let's say 2 cannons, I think that's totally fine in 4v4. If let's just say your strategy was going to be one Zerg's going to Roach Ravager, Terran's going to go for Banshees, other Zerg player is going to go for Mutas, and then the Protoss player is going to go for DTs. So you have 2 air control players, you have 1 tech rush player to go supreme, like, top tier 3 tech, and then you have 1 Zerg player who's going to stay low tech tier 1. Having the Protoss player add in a Forge as well, just for some extra mineral defense, would be totally fine. And this also pairs well if you have players that are going to be a little bit more greedy, where instead of having, let's say, you know, your players going for, like, early game pressure, if you're going to expand and go for, like, you're still going to go early game pressure, but you want to add in expansions to it, cannons add in a second player of defense as well, is what I'm trying to say. So cannons could substitute a player going for early game tier 1 units. It's because it's not that expensive, and it's actually extremely powerful defensively, but it would need to be utilized defensively this way. So if a player goes cannons and you cannon rush them, it defeats the purpose. So it still makes sense if you want to go cannons, and then you can still expand more, a little more greedy and stuff like that.
To be sure we've understood there, when you say defensive cannons and then you gestured over at that expansion base, did you mean put the damn cannons by the expansion base?
No. So I just get your ramp. Whatever entrance to your base is, the most commonly used one. And this, on this map, is definitely going to be the one that the ramp they're going to enter your base from. So it's good to do it behind your wall.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of looking around while I was talking. But yeah, we'll keep going through a little bit faster. So, like, right now we have the Terran player who's going, like, hybrid Marine tank. We have a Zerg player who's going for Roach style with expansion. We have another Zerg player who's going for layer rush, which probably will be Mutas, I would guess. That's the only reason. Like, if you layer rush it, the only 2 options you really have, honestly, are Nidus pressure or Spire. If you don't do either one of those, you should not ever layer rush as Zerg. We'll see what you do with it. Protoss is going for Council Robo. This looks more like, and you're making stalkers, so that's totally fine. So, like, right now, what I see from all of you guys is we have 1 Zerg player who's teching, 1 Zerg player who's playing early game, a Terran player who's playing kind of hybrid early to mid, like 1-1-1 opener. I don't think 1-1-1 is necessarily bad. This is, I would say the Terran player falls into the category of early control, like bio, because, I mean, you're going less barracks, but you're adding in a factory and making tanks out of it, and you're using them defensively. That is great. That works totally fine. And I would say overall right now, I don't really have a major problem with your guys' early game. And the player who actually, the Zerg player who teched actually just made a Nidus. I don't mind your early game right now. It's not bad. For, like, the choices you've made. Not talking about your build orders exactly, but the choices you're making, it's not bad for 4v4 so far. But you can see now, like, one of their players went air. This is the one problem I will say you have. So there is one problem. None of you went air, and now this Zerg player with Mutas did go air, and now he's running over your base. Like, he's annoying the shit out of the pink Zerg, and it's gonna just become a problem if he does what I said for you guys as well, which is don't ever fight the army. Kill workers and run away from army repeatedly, and it's going to make a massive problem for all of you. So, like, if the Protoss player, for instance, because, like, you actually have 3 players going ground units now, because you have the Protoss player going cannon stalker, you have the Zerg player going roaches, and you have the Terran player going marine tank, but mostly focus on tank because it's just 1 barracks. So you have 3 players going to that early game task. if you had, let's say the Protoss players dipped out of going for Stalker and went for Stargate, this would not be a problem for you, and you guys would have massive amounts of control right now, and you'd be fine. Or if one of your Zerg players went for Mutas, you'd be fine. Or if I would say, honestly, if you're going to have an air unit, if you want to have 2 air unit players, Terran could be one of the second ones for that. I want to say this because I don't want you guys to somehow be like, okay, our Terran player is going to be the only one who goes air every time, and he always goes Liberators. If you have that be your choice, you're probably going to struggle just like you are this game against people who go air against you, because Liberators actually suck really bad against air units until they're in large number and they're upgraded well. So I would say if you want to have a second air unit player, if that has to be Terran, I don't mind that. That's fine, because Liberators could be super annoying in their base. But if you need to have only just one air unit player, which is required to have at least one, have that be a Zerg Muta player or a Protoss Phoenix player. Or like it could be Phoenix and Oracle, but like having the ability to go Stargates. That's super necessary in 4v4. Because all of you have, here's the reason why this is so important. If none of you go air, you all have to play an extremely safe opener of you all like, every one of you has to be like, okay, every base now needs like 3 missile turrets, or like 3 spore crawlers, or like 3 cannons and a battery around my mineral line, and then I also need to always leave my army in every mineral line. Like, you can't defend the door properly anymore, because one player or maybe 2 players on their team who could go air will ruin all of your lives. Like, these mutas could go to the Protoss's main. These mutas could go, not really to the orange Zerg is looking pretty decent here. The mutas couldn't do shit there, but you've invested into spore crawlers, which is expensive. The Terran player would get destroyed right now by the mutas. The pink Zerg on the base that's getting attacked right now is going to get destroyed, but like at least the other bases are defended. But once again, you have a bunch of spores. Maximum of spores, if you have air coverage in your army, would be like 1 spore, 1 cannon, 1 turret per mineral line. Just to like get aggro and be like, hey, come over here, they're at my base. And that 1 static D structure buys your air player time to come and defend it. It's much cheaper on your whole team to do it this way. And you don't have, and the player who goes air, if all of you are like, God, I don't want to be the air player, if you don't want to do that, just know you do not have to do it all game. Like, you don't have to be the guy who just stays on mutas all game, or Phoenix all game. It's just the opener, because if you don't open that way, you allow these kinds of problems to happen to you.
Yeah, I think we don't think about air enough. That we have consistently have problems with people killing our economy. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
That
just,
sounds right.
yeah, and it's just like it forces so much out of you too. Like, if you all, if one of their players goes, for instance, sorry, I'm not even talking with the mic on. My bad, Jesus. I was talking on my stream. Just think about it like this too. This is the final way I'll explain it, which makes a lot of sense. If just one of their players goes air, that's enough to force you all to make static D, right? And let's say you all make like 3 static D structures, and you all have a natural. That now means you have 8 bases in total, which is 24 static D structures that need to be forced out of all of you, because you need, like, say, make 3 per base to be properly defended. And now that, like, the investment of like one guy going for just like 10 mutas to all of you going for static D in every base is like triple the minerals or the resources, mostly minerals, of your investment to their investment as a team. Like, it's like you just take this like 3,000 mineral dump in your economy when they only might have invested 1,000 minerals, just between the team as a whole. So that's already like a massive dip that you're behind now, and then on top of that, it makes expanding, and it makes also just scouting way harder for you guys as a team, and it gives them a control feeling of the game overall. So it, and like when your economy is also, if it ever happens where like you pull a mineral line away or you run away for a second, it just causes even more mining time to be lost, more money lost as a team. It just sucks.
Well, I'm feeling pretty sold on air. I think you've compellingly made your point.
Yeah.
Even historically, we haven't done this sort of viable sounding compartmentalization or like assigning of roles. So we just all do paranoid stuff the whole time.
Yeah.
And, like, tackle individually.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. And then now I'm kind of going to speed through it now just to see your guys' late game as what you go for. And what I was saying before too, we can break down styles for each one of you. Like, I can talk to each one of you and be like, okay, what do you prefer? I can give you some ideas, like what sounds good to you. I can I can give you options of what role you want to be and how you can play it out. But ideally, this is how it usually will go as we go through this. You have 2 tiers of late game. The first part of that is whatever your opener was, as that gets high supply, essentially. Like, it's like, okay, well, I have a lot too. Yeah, so do you. Okay, let's go attack. That's about it. The second tier of late game is you always have the idea to transition into something that's going to be the final like in-game god mode army, which is exactly what we were talking about a second ago. There's multiple armies that each race has, but like mass BCs or maybe like mass Thors for Terran would be great. Carriers, so on and so on and so on. Like these kinds of armies where you just literally have like almost mono battle type units where it's like the most expensive shit that's super powerful. You all have that together and you push as a big unit. That is the best way to play in game if you cannot end the game through your mid game compositions you had. And then the final way to read this, as like the most easy way to read it, to be like, all right, like, should we go Deathball now? Like, should we transition to like the in-game supreme composition? Is this a good idea now? The easiest way to know this is count the bases, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be like a rough summary. Like, for instance, if you put like a slice in the middle of the map and you split it to where you both have the same amount of bases, because that's how every map in StarCraft 2 works. There is always the identical amount of bases on both sides of the map if you just cut it in half. And if you go, well, we have kind of like most of that, so do they. We can't break them right now. Then go to Deathball. It's literally that simple. So you don't have to like make it super technical and think about it really hard and be like, okay, what makes sense here? Just count bases, and if they have a lot of money compared to your money, if they're still rich and they're not broke basically, you need to go Deathball. But if it's the opposite, and let's say you guys have like the whole section in bottom right and you even have the middle of the map and they haven't even been able to expand because you guys have your air player, harassment player, or your tech player has like ruined their economy repeatedly, and their expansions as a team are really bad. And you're like, well, we have like 12 bases or like 15 bases as a team, and our opponents only have 7 or 9. You're like, well, we're like doubling their base count. You don't have to go Supreme Tech in-game then. You could just literally pile on the pressure repeatedly, over and over and over, and just break them with your mid-game compositions. It would 100% work if you do it like that. So it's kind of how to know what you should be doing as a team.
That's helpful.
Yeah, because like right now, I see that their Protoss player is going Skytoss, their Terran player is going Mech, like Mass Thor, and they have another player on their team going Mass Battlecruiser. Like they're already going Supreme in-game tech here. And then what is their Zerg player really doing? Their Zerg player is going for Corruptor Roach, and tech-wise, he has Ultras coming, possibly. He has the Ultras Cavern being made. So he like Ultras is another in-game tech unit. So they are going for Deathball is what they're doing. And if someone does Deathball really early, this is why you should have transitions to Deathball. You shouldn't just rush it unless you're that one player. Only one player can do it on your team, which is the tech player we talked about. Like if you want to rush your tech to Deathball like right off the bat, you can do that. But only one player can do it to start. And then the rest of the team needs to transition into it from the other tasks. Because if you all rush Deathball and you play against a team who doesn't do that, you'll never be able to expand. You will never be able to expand, and it will feel so easy if you have players with air control or tech control, just controlling the map. And just to make this sound not confusing, just like for whoever player is going to play the early game control, like the early game tier 1 units, like Roach Ravagers, Big Stalker, Sentry, whatever, if you're that guy, you can push across the map if you realize your pressure players are controlling their team really well, and you want to furthermore add to that control. You can also then push out, and you don't have to defend anymore because you now have control of the map. But until your teammates that have the air control or the tech control, until they actually gain control of the map, you never leave the base. You always defend until that point comes. So that's usually how it goes. And if you can control the map, if you as a team, if you're like, yeah, I'm owning them over here, I'm owning them over there, we have double their base count. A tier 1 player can now be like, cool, I'll just set up defense outside of their base, or I'll siege the front of their base. Don't try to throw your army away, but just try to make them not expand. And then you can, as a team, when you're all ready to go for it, you can just jump on them repeatedly. And that's how Ed would always go. So, again, what I see from you guys is you guys have a tank marine player, you have a stalker player with, lots of gates. You have a Zerg player who's going for Lurker Hydra. You have the other Zerg player who's going for, Orange is going for Roach, Corruptor, Zergling. Like, what I'm seeing here, basically, is they're going Deathball, and you guys are kind of going for early game compositions. But if you go early game compositions, like, if you mass it out, you definitely need to have more control of the game. So, again, you guys have 3 players that went for the early game units, and you had one player that kind of like teched to a layer really fast, which was the pink Zerg who went Lurker Hydra, but you guys haven't done any attacks, and you're having 3 low tier unit players play against 4 Deathball players, which means if you miss your window to do damage in the beginning, you're gonna just get out teched and you're gonna die. But people who rush tech like they did on their team, they're very vulnerable early, because if you look at your armies right now, if all these Lings, all these Roaches, all these Lurkers and Hydras, all these Stalkers, all these tanks, if they all went over there, look at your opponent's expansions. It's like a defenseless command center, defenseless hatchery other than a couple spores, another command center that has like 7 Marines at it. That's garbage. And then if you allow them to have money like this while they all rush tech, they'll be able to actually afford lots of tech. So that's the problem you guys fell into here, if that makes sense. Like, you guys have no scouting because you have no air player, and now you're all staying low tech. So you're going to die late game.
Yeah, that sounds like what's about to happen.
Yeah. All right.
Scouting in this season?
Yeah, it's super in. Always in.
Ooh, fresh hip.
Alright, so we can just speed it up now to the end. Because, yeah, I already see how this game's going to go. Like, if they just... The only way you guys will win here, honestly, is if you somehow catch one of their players by themselves, and you somehow 4v1 him repeatedly. But if they ever get together, your army comps will just trade really poorly. Which they're already starting to get to, like the Protoss and the Terran player are already kind of getting together here. Now there's Zerg players coming with Lings and Mita. Yeah, it's just too much low tech is all it is. But I will say, like, you guys are kind of fortunate though that like blue with the battlecruisers is not even helping at all. And there's a chance that you might have been able to kill the Thors there, but... And like Vikings, Terran player, don't ever go Vikings in 4v4. Vikings are wonderful in 1v1. If you want to go air as Terran, literally it needs to be either Liberator, Banshee, or Battlecruiser. Do not ever make Vikings. Just to throw that out there. Vikings are like the most dead weight unit you can possibly make in a 4v4.
I think that's been my go-to for trying to counter some air units.
Yeah, so you rely on your teammates for that. There's so many better options. Like, and if you want to counter air units and you want to go air yourself, it's battlecruisers. Because Vikings they have to get too close and they're way too squishy. They just die. And they're very... Or go ahead, you go.
I was gonna say, so we should have a not Terran do the earlier air then, because battle cruisers are later.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying earlier was if you want to have 2 air players, Terran can support with the second air player, and you can go for like Liberator pressure on economies. So like, for instance, if you're like, oh wow, they have Spore Crawlers, and you have a Protoss player who goes Phoenix, or a Zerg player who goes Mitas, with a Terran player who goes Liberator as well, because now you have 2. Like, so it's either the Zerg or the Protoss with the Terran, if that makes sense. The Terran player can siege over the static D because Liberator fields are longer range than the auto attack of a Muta or the pickup radius of a Phoenix. So you could just circumvent static D altogether and have Terran players siege workers with Liberator fields while other player covers Liberators. That'd be great. That'd be fine. And then if Terran player wants to go air by himself, you could have that Terran player, the air Terran player, go for Banshees to go harass, but again, he needs to be paired with either Muta or Phoenix, probably, if he does that, because then you fall in the same category of you have no anti-air defense with an air unit yourself. So if they go like Muta or if they go Phoenix, you have no answer to that now with your air unit. So Terran needs to be paired with someone else if Terran wants to go air. But Zerg and Protoss are way more self-sufficient because Protoss and Zerg have the ability to not only kill air units by themselves, but they can also kill ground units. Because Mutas and Phoenix and Oracle are just, and Void Ray, all of these things are really good at dealing with versatility here. They can deal with multiple things.
You mentioned Viking is a unit to never build in 4v4. Are there Zerg or Protoss units you would say to never bother building in 4v4?
If you don't all in, Hydra is not very good for Zerg. Zergling is not very good for Zerg. Baneling is not very good for Zerg. Corruptor is not really... The only time you should ever go Corruptor as Zerg, honestly, in a 4v4, is if your entire opponent's enemy team also has, like, Mass Battlecruiser, Mass Carrier, Mass Corruptor as well. Just like they have only air units. Then Corruptor is only good then. But if your opponents have, like, Mass Thor, with some carrier battlecruiser and lots of roach ravager or something like that, and you go corruptor on your team, it's not as good. You would rather be the guy who goes like mass ravagers or something like that. Much better. So yeah, corruptor is like only if they have mass air, and then don't make like units that are just gonna run in and die, other than ultras. So like Zergling are bad, Baneling are bad, Hydras are bad, pretty much. For Terran, Vikings are pretty terrible. Marine Marauder, Ghost, these kinds of units early game are good early, but stop making them late game. Like you should, if you go to the Death Ball, never make any more of them. For mech, like mech is pretty well rounded overall. Like Cyclone Hellion, good early, but again, kind of drops off late in the game. Don't make them late. Don't have them as like 40% of your composition late game, or else your army is going to be really bad. For air, it's really just Vikings, honestly, are the only unit that's like just a no-no, like ever. Like try never to make that. Try to let your teammates go better air units to cover you for what the job of Vikings should be. And then for Protoss, I would say never make Zealots or Adepts unless, again, you're going to be very all-in. Like if your teammate, if all of you guys agree, yeah, let's do a super big all-in. Charge lots would be okay there. Resonating Glaives would be great there. Like they would help a lot. But if you're not going to all-in, do not go Adepts or Zealots. They're way too crappy compared to Stalkers for just defensive play. Sentry, Stalker, good. DT, High Templar, both of those are good for the player who rushes tech. High Templars are super good about the fact that they can... Sonic Storm's amazing. DTs are good if you're the player who rushes it. For Robo, every unit in the Robo is good if that's the style you want to play. If you want to go like... I would say Robo most commonly pairs with the player who's going to open up with Stalker Sentry. Then you can go into a Robo behind that, and you can have some Colossus, some Disruptor for like the mid-game pushes. And then always switch into Stargate if the game doesn't ever end in the mid-game and you have to go Deathball, because none of those units are Deathball. So Stargate is your Deathball for Protoss. And then for a Stargate, literally, again, every unit is good for 4v4. Just know, though, this is the one thing that's huge. Just know, if you choose not to go Phoenix, you need to have a second air player. If you're like, hey, Protoss player, go air. You have to have a second air player if you want to go for the Protoss player to go for Phoenix or Void... Or, sorry, to go for Oracle or Void Ray. The point I'm trying to make here is, if you go for an air unit that is good at killing ground units, but kind of crappy at killing air units, or it literally can't fight air units at all, you have to have someone else who can do that. So Phoenix are really good at killing air units. Mutas are really good at killing air units. And if you don't have either one of those units, from the one air player, you have to have a second air player that will do that. And Zerg is easy because Zerg is always going to go Mutas. If that makes sense. So yeah, if you open like voids, if you open voids and then you're like, oh, they have mutas in my base, bring your voids over here, come help me, it's gonna feel like crap. Voids aren't gonna get the job done very well there.
They're just decorative.
Yeah.
Stargates.
They're right, like there actually is like no arrow really. There's a lot of Stargates. But yeah, like right now you're fighting Deathball units because the one thing that's happening to you guys is they all have siege against you. Like you're basically trying to fight like a spear with like a dagger. Like you're like, all right, well I'm just getting stabbed over and over every time I'm trying to engage, but I can't. Like what happens to the Corruptors every time they go in is they get pounded by Thor when they're trying to kill Tempest. And Tempest just sit there and they're like, yeah, if you attack me, all the Thor will kill you, and then the Tempest just sit there shooting you. And then the Thor can't move in because of the Lurker, but the Thor don't care about the Lurker because the Battlecruisers and the Tempest will kill the Lurker too. So this is what I mean by like a Deathball versus a non-Deathball. Like your guys' armies are kind of, you have to run in and die to try to engage them, which is, you know, this is what you'll run into all the time if your opponents just make a better army than you.
Yeah, run in and die, that is a strategy of ours.
Yeah.
Can you say a little more though about not using Hydras? Because having watched Beta GM,
Yeah.
that literally is just my go-to is Hydra spam.
Yeah. So the reason why Hydras are crappy in 4v4 is because 4v4 is a game where one player cannot do everything by themselves. And Hydras fall into the category of mid-game, and there are so many better options for mid-game than Hydras. Like, for instance, air control units like Mutas, Phoenix, Banshees, Oracles, Voids, whatever. Liberator, any of these units that can control the mid game like a champion, because the whole point of the air unit control is you want to conserve it. Like, you're not trying to throw them away. You're trying to harass whatever you can and get out. And those units, that the one thing they have that it's the one common denominator that they have that's above a Hydra is mobility. Hydras have no mobility to get into a base. The only thing Hydras can do to get into a base is like if you Nidus it and just like shove in there, or if you walk up to the front door and start trying to break their door down. And almost every single time what will happen to you is your Hydras are going to die. Like, they're just going to die. So you're going to be stuck on Hydras forever, and they're really bad late game units. And the reason why they're really bad late game units is because they have to walk in and die. Like, they're medium range, they're squishy, super squishy, they're susceptible to high power units, and they're also susceptible to AoE units. And you're never going to outnumber your opponent in 4v4 if you're just the guy going Hydras, because you're going to have, you might have a high supply where, like in Bronze Gym, I'm always like, if you're going Hydras, you should have like 180 supply to their like 130 or something like that. But in 4v4, you're going to have, let's say you do have like 180 supply, and your opponents all have 130 supply, and now that together they have, what is that, 520 together? And then you're like, oh, well, I'm trying to break 4 people at the same time. And now my Hydras are just going to they're just going to get mowed over. And in a death ball situation, if you're all maxed, Hydras are going to walk in and they're going to die before the fight even really starts. Like, they're so bad for late game compositions. So you can literally just bypass them in 4v4. The only time it's okay to make Hydras is, again, if you guys are going to do an all-in together. If you guys all agree, yeah, let's do a big timing. I'm going to go for the Hydra route. I'm just going to do, like, really quick Hydra pressure. The other guy's like, I'm going to go really quick Roach Ravager pressure. Another player could be like, I'm going to go for a Stalker all-in with maybe Immortals. And the other player could be like, I'm going to go for Mass Banshees or vice versa, whatever, really. If you guys go for timings, Hydras would be, like, units like that could be okay. You can really make anything work in a timing. But if you want to play a later game where your idea is to expand, control, like, you know, take the game to the end game, units like Hydras fall off really fucking hard. They're really bad. The only reason why Roach Ravager is good is because of Corrosive Bile. That would also be bad otherwise. But Corrosive Bile is amazing because look at his battlecruisers right now in this fight. The blue battlecruisers. Look how stacked those are. Everybody, look at the Tempest. They're all stacked. Look at the Thors. They're like, obviously ground units can't stack as hard as air, but they're still stacked. AoE is amazing in 4v4. So if you're always wanting to be the guy who goes Hydra Lurker, if you just become the guy who goes Roach Ravager and you just spam Corrosive Bile over armies like this, you're gonna delete. You might even do the top damage on your team because you will delete shit so hard if it stacks like this. Like, one Corrosive Bile could probably hit about 7 battlecruisers at once right there, like, realistically. And that's 7 times 60 damage, which is insane. And if you have like 10 Biles going out there, you know what I mean? That's just ridiculous damage at that point. Anyone have, like, we can jump into the individual games now if you guys want, but does anyone have any questions about anything I just said that makes no sense, maybe?
I don't. It seems pretty clear.
It's great.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's all just bump out of the replay because obviously you guys are super dead right there. And I don't care who I do first. We can just jump into, like, we'll do 4 different games and I'll make it as quick as I can. But whoever you want to go first, just basically the way to do it would be give me an idea of what you want to play. You don't have to be specific about what units you want to use, but like what kind of role you want to fill. I'll give you options. You can pick one of those options, and then I'll give you a quick example build of it. Whoever wants to go first, I don't mind who it is.
Protoss DT.
You want to try a DT build?
Yeah.
Okay, so toss me lead really fast, and I'll make a game really quick.
Oh, are you in StarCraft, Mike?
God, I'm on my phone right now. It's an exciting day over here.
All right, Mike's just watching then.
If you can join this game, maybe one of you all, then we will have a record, transmittable record.
Yeah. You guys will all be in the game. All right, so I'm just gonna make on a large map. It doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna show you guys the build order essentially, and then I'll also give you the build order up to a point where it essentially can transition to Death Ball. Because if you guys want to, I think the easiest way to play it would be do your opener and then always transition to Death Ball. And the reason why I think that's the best way to play it is because Death Ball allows you to be a little bit more lazy about how you play. Because it's more focused on your defensive macro than it is on your lined up aggression. Like, playing timings is harder just because of the fact that, like, we can, I can show you guys timings, but playing timing styles is harder because you guys all have to synergize really, really, really well. But if you guys play all Death Ball styles, you guys can all be like, well, I'm kind of like 70% of where I want to be at right now. The other player could be like, I'm 90% of where I want to be at. Another could be like, I'm like 45%. I'm really slacking right now. I'm not really at all where I want to be right now. And then another player could be like, well, I'm ready right now. But the thing about Death Ball is time is on your side. So if one player is like kind of like coming up the rear really slow, and it's you know, it's just like, okay, well, come on, like we'll give you another 5 minutes to catch up to everyone else. You know, maybe he took some damage earlier or whatever. It's okay, because the longer you wait, the stronger you get anyways, because you make an army together that is like god tier. It's just like, well, once we all have Death Ball, it's just game's over. It's like, you know, we're good to go. But if you were doing a timing and that same circumstance happened where like one player was like not even halfway to where they want to be right now, and the rest of you are ready to go, you kind of just have to go and just be like, well, we're going to be a little weaker, but if we don't go now, we're going to miss the opportunity to do it anyways.
That makes sense.
All right, so you guys, honestly, you don't have to do anything this game. If you don't, you know, you can just watch if you want to. I'm just gonna do this for the example of what the build should look like for Protoss. It's going. Who wants to go DTs?
That's Mike.
There you go, Mike. This is your build, dude.
I'm boiling over with excitement.
I can tell.
No, I'm muted because I'm going to the bathroom. What do you want?
Okay.
Honesty.
All right, so I have a question for you. This is the only preference. Would you prefer to try to use a prism with this? And I'm not saying warp in TTs constantly, just like you can fly it around their base and be annoying, or would you rather just use a proxy pylon and just warp in a couple DTs and try to be annoying that way?
This is my favorite. It's like absolutely the wizard character.
Oh, so I didn't hear the first part what you said right there.
Prism.
Okay, prism. Okay. And just know if you so where I'm building, you can change this as well. Like, you don't have to build it at the same location I'm doing. If you're going for the styles of where you want to wall off, you can definitely build these buildings at your ramp. That's totally fine, because Protoss is, if you have double Zerg in your team, you're probably going to need to do that. The only buildings you don't build at your wall would be your council and your dark shrine. That's it, and your robo, just your tech structures essentially. But like your gates and your core, you can put those at your wall, and that's fine. And you can mix those with like the depots and the barracks.
So I've heard you say implicitly a few times that maybe people could like collaborate on a wall rather than having one person sink all their early game minerals into the wall.
Yeah, like if you have non-Zergs and you guys don't want to do an all-in, you definitely should have all the races who don't, who aren't Zerg essentially, build at the wall. You should always be doing that. And because some maps have like multiple doors, like this one, so it would have to be like the Terran would take one and the Protoss would take one. And just know, at this point, I'll just build it just for this game specifically. But right now, in this build, you can either add in or not add in a Forge. You would want to add in a Forge if you only have one early game player. Do not add a Forge, though, if you have two early game players. So if you have a Zerg and a Terran going Bio and Roach Ravager, you don't need to go cannons. But if you're like, okay, Terran's going to go air, one Zerg is going to go air, the other Zerg is going to go Roach Ravager, and I'm going to go DTs, then you should probably make cannons.
Okay. So keep in mind, I mean, you're doing this really well right now, but we have a collective APM of like 6, so
Sure. I mean, yeah. It's so far.
maybe 10.
All you do, like, I'll just
60.
It's not
with
that
some
bad.
credit.
okay. I'll talk about the build really quick. I'll talk about the build really quick too. So, I mean, you know exactly what I'm doing. It's just obviously it's just pylon gate gas. You make your second gas after your first gas, so when you have enough money to afford it. Throw out 1 chrono boost at your nexus, just 1, and the time that your pylon's done. You then make a Twilight Council with as soon as your core is done, and as soon as your Twilight Council finishes, throw down your Dark Shrine and your Robo at the same time. And then as soon as you have a little bit of money, throw down 3 more gateways. Just like as soon as you can afford it, as you're still making probes throughout this. And the one thing I skipped too was after you make your core and your second gas, as soon as you have 400 minerals while you're waiting for your core to finish, go take an expansion. Because you should expand with this style if you're just going to sit here. Because you're not making any gateway units. So you can afford an expansion. And definitely do not make gateway units if you're going to be the DT guy. Like, unless you're getting all in by all 4 of them and you really need them, you can start making stalkers to help your team then. But otherwise, don't even bother. And as soon as our robo's done, make your prism and chrono boost it like immediately. Like, you want to get that out as fast as possible. And as soon as your natural's done, you can start transferring probes to it. And then now your gateway should be done. Your robo is about to finish. Your warp gate's all just finished, and now you can warp in 4 DTs, all right around the time your prism pops out. And you know, obviously, if you're missing the money just for a second, just get the rest of the money, get your 4 DTs out, and then you can just fly around the base, harass with it as much as you can. And now behind this, just go. Obviously, be annoying, and then I can't really go attack with it, but you would just do it as much as you can. And if you are a little bit slow about how you follow this up, it's okay, because the follow-up is exactly what I talked about, which is like if one player is slower than the other, it doesn't matter, because the follow-up to this is going to be a death ball. So if you get a lot of damage done with this, that's wonderful, great. But try not to keep making DTs all game. The only time you should keep making DTs is if you all agree. You're like, yeah, I'm like, they're gonna die. I'm doing a lot of damage. You're doing a lot of damage. We're all doing a lot of damage. Let's just try to end the game. Then sure, why not? Make some more units out of your Dark Shrines, or out of your gateways for Dark Shrine, and that's fine. But if you're all kind of just like getting pushed away, your opponents are doing a decent job of defending their base. Don't feel pressured to keep making DTs. Just stop at 4, and let that be. And then you're gonna transition immediately right now into Stargates. And once you have 2 bases fully saturated, if you see a moment where you're like, okay, well, we have an open base somewhere else, I can take it, by all means, go take it, while your teammates and you are controlling the map. If you can't take another base because you're not controlling well enough, or you just, for whatever reason, you're stuck on 2 bases, maybe your teammates have expanded a little bit too much. That's
An
okay.
APM?
Yeah, it's whatever, yeah, or your APM is just not where you want it to be right now. It's, all of it's fine. I gotta defend this, actually. Your probes are dying here. But, so, if you're just stuck on 2 bases, all you do is you make a Stargate right after you make the Dark Templar, whenever you can afford it. Start getting weapon upgrades on your Cyber Core. When the Stargate is done, make as many Stargate as you have Nexus. So if you have 2 Nexus, make a second Stargate, and stop at 2 Stargate. If you're on 3 bases, add in a 3rd Stargate. If you're on 4 bases somehow right now, add in a 4th Stargate. So just pair the amount of Nexus you have to the amount of Stargate you have at this point, and that's going to be all you're going to do all game. And then you just literally dump Chrono Boost into weapon upgrade repeatedly over and over and over, and wait until your fleet beacon's done and just start making carriers. The last thing you can do, if you feel like you have a lot of minerals and you need to spend your minerals in another way, by all means, you can add in more cannons to help defend more bases if you want to. Or, the last thing you can do is, if you feel like you want to add in some more help to your teammates to be pressuring, you have the option to get charge and just start using your gateways for zealots. Those are 2 options you have, but either one is fine. Because your overall in-game goal is to max out on carriers either way. And then it's just literally Chrono Boost carriers, Chrono Boost your weapon upgrade repeatedly, and if you can afford it, eventually get a mothership. And that's it. That's your whole build.
All right.
How you feel?
Thank you.
You like that? You like that build? Is it good? You liking it?
It's tantalizing.
Okay. All right, we can jump out of this game, and I'll do another player now. And then if you guys all leave the game, just I would probably say save that. One of you could just save that as well. Oh, sorry, I was talking again without the mic on because I haven't pushed the talk right now. So I just left because that's the whole build. That's literally just it. You just max out on carriers. One of you guys can leave the game and you could save it and you could just send it to Mike, I guess, so you don't lose it. You can just call it like DT build or something like that, and I could do a build for now another one of you.
I'll do that.
All right, you got that, Colin?
Yeah.
Right, so who wants to go next for whatever you want to do?
Well, me or Casey could go next. We're the two Zergs, so I feel like we are interchangeable.
Okay.
We could do if we do the early. Well, so like I said, I mostly would do Hydra spam naturally. I'd say the last week I've started to try to do more Roach Ravager, but I would like to see what that early game Roach Ravager build looks like.
Okay, so you'll go Roach Ravager, and you'll just stick on that all game, like literally all game. And there's an option you can do late game if you want to, but you could stick on it all game. And then the other player who goes Muta, you tell me if this sounds good. It would basically be, you open up with having speed, so you have the ability if you need to reinforce speedlings defensively if you want to, or if you guys notice you're getting a lot of damage done with your pressure players, you could always flood lings at them too. It's just like that I talked about the charge lots. It's an option, but you essentially what your main goal is you go mutas, and then mutas turn into Broodlord.
Okay. And then Broodlord's like a late game situation, right?
Yeah.
All right.
You could even turn it into ultras if you want to, but I would say the Muta player probably is going to be the one who's going to go Broodlord, and the Roach Ravager player, if you want to, you could be the one who switches into ultras if you want to. That's better. How if you have two Zergs, that's probably how it would fit better.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right, so I'm gonna make the same game again really fast, and I'll just do both your builds now, and I'll do the Roach Ravager one first, and then I'll do the Muta one second. All right. So Zerg. Okay, so this will be Roach Ravager, and then you guys can kind of just like take take bases as you see fit. Like, there's really no expansion order because all your jobs are going to be kind of important. So like, it's not like one person needs to expand over everyone else. Whatever you guys really want to do for that, just take expansions as you can take them with all these builds. But most maps in 4v4 have like tons of bases, so it usually won't be a problem. Alright, okay. So, Roach Ravager player, I would say you're going to be the one who's going to... I'm going to have you play a little bit more of a conservative Roach Ravager style. Like, it's a little more defensive than normal. So, I'm actually not going to have you expand before you make a Roach Horn in your team format. So, you're going to be going for a little bit of a later natural. You'll probably be the latest one to expand on your team overall. Depending on, I don't know what the Terran will do yet, but possibly you'll be the latest one to expand, and which is fine because I mean you're going Roach Ravager like for a long time, so it's okay. So we're gonna have you just go for like a 17 pool. You just make your Overlord at 13, go for like a 17 pool, and then go for like a 17 gas. And as soon as you saturate that gas and then you make a Roach one, then you tilt that on natural. So it's not going to be super late. It'll just be a little bit later. The reason why this is important is because if, for instance, like the Protoss player is going to be going for DT rush, if you guys get all in, your chances of now not dying are going to go way up because you're going to have a very stable Roach Ravager defense right off the bat. So rip off your mineral line to get gas really fast. As soon as your gas is done. So it's a little different than Bronze GM, as you can see. I mean, I bet you guys are all like, oh my god, this is like so much different than what he showed us in Vita GM. But it's because 4v4 is so like specific about, like if you all just kind of sit around and chill on mid-game stuff, like you're all probably going to die, as you've noticed. So now we have our natural being started after the roach one's been started. We're starting the queen around the same time as the natural. We'll take you all the way to 22 drones in a second here. I would say build your overlord when you're on 3 out of 3 on the gas and you're on 60 out of 16 on the mineral line, so you're at 19 drones in total. And then have, if at this point now, if your overlords have kind of revealed, oh yeah, like they're actually proxying us, or they have like lings running at our base already, do not make a second gas yet. If you're getting all in like crazy, just start making roaches. But if you see, oh, they're not proxying, they're not being super all in, build enough drones to saturate your second gas really early, and start a second queen. And then you can be the guy who sets up like creep and stuff like for your team and like mobility and vision. And yeah, so you would just make the extra couple drones for your like for yourself to saturate your second gas if you're not getting ridiculously all in. But either way, no matter what, if they're all inning you or not, what you're gonna do now after you have 3 out of 3 on both your gases and a fully saturated mineral line is you're gonna make roaches. You're gonna make probably like 8 roaches right now. So you're not gonna saturate your natural super early. And then you can use your second queen to like maybe throw down just like one creep tumor between your main and your natural so that you can connect your bases. I would say be careful about putting creep on the wall though. Like try not to do that in case your teammate is walling for you with like Protoss wall or Terran wall.
Yeah, I think that was also learned the hard way.
Yeah. So if you have to, you can always put a creep tumor like kind of further back away from the wall, just to make sure you're okay. You just want to connect your bases so that your queens and your roaches can be a little more mobile to get around the base faster. And then we're going to have you take a layer as you start making drones again. And then you can make like just like 2 Ravagers to start. Just like start on 2, that's fine. You don't have to go mass Ravagers right now because roaches are really effective as well at dealing with like early pressure if that's what happens. And now you're just kind of just hanging out for a while. Once you get your larva to a point where it's spent really well, where like you don't have a bunch of larvae just sitting at the hatcheries constantly because you're just making drones. So you're not supply blocking, you're not having larvae sit there. We'll then have you start getting upgrades. They'll probably start around the time when you have a layer essentially. But because like right now I'm definitely struggling to spend my larvae just making drones at this point. But we just want to have you saturate your natural is all it is. Just get to a point where your natural is fully saturated. And then now our larva is being spent pretty well. Our upgrade for roach speed is starting. Our natural has a nice saturation at it. We can throw down double gas. And we can throw down double evo chamber wherever you want to put it. It does not matter. Just anywhere. Put a double evo there, whatever. And we'll take droning again all the way to 44, so that'll be full saturation of 2 bases. And now you as this player, you're actually gonna sit on 2 bases for a little while. You don't need to go crazy on expanding with Roach Ravager as much as your teammates do that are making more expensive stuff. You need to worry more about always just making sure you're kind of like in the right position at the right time. And one thing you actually can do, this is kind of a cool trick you can do as the Roach Ravager player, because I would say Roach Ravager player, as long as you're not getting all in, you're gonna probably have the most time on your team to do shit. Like this is kind of like spare free time. While you're just making roaches and ravagers, I would highly recommend making like a 3rd queen. And this is something cool that you can do with your 3rd queen. So again, I don't want you to fuck over your wall of your teammate. So like if your creep was in the way, you could obviously kill it. If you're like, no, I need to get rid of that or whatever. You can make your 3rd queen walk out of your base. And again, you're just making roach ravager. But your 3rd queen can walk out of your base and you can start pooing creep out of an overlord in front of your base. And you can start spreading like a creep net in front of where your bases are. So like if it's out here, it doesn't matter because your opponents or your teammates aren't going to get screwed with the wall. But this makes your army and your teammates' army really mobile, especially yours because you're going Roach Ravager. But if your teammate goes for Zerglings at all at any point in time, it makes their stuff better. But now you can just focus on creep spreading for your team, and also maybe like spreading overlords around the map just to give vision. You're like the defensive scouting net essentially. You're basically the backbone of the team. And that's all you're really doing. You can max out on this all day. You can go all the way to 3 upgrades for range and carapace. if you get to a point in the game where you're like, you know what, I actually don't want to stay Roach Ravager anymore. I want to fully take this all the way to. I want to switch my army now. I would say it would make sense to switch your army if your opponents were like pure ground. Okay, if they were all ground armies, it would make sense. You could switch it to like mass ultras. But if they have any air, which will happen way more often, like if they have carriers, if they have battle cruisers, whatever air units, you could just make lots of Ravagers and just throw tons of Crucibles at their army. So just know Roach Ravager is very viable all the time. I just really want you to feel okay about that. And once you're going to a hive, I would say right now, if you can, you're like, I'm gonna go to a hive now. My base is also starting to mine out. If your teammates have any available bases, try to take a third if you can. If not, just know that your economy is, I'm not gonna lie, the least important on your team. And the reason why is because you're the least likely to lose units. Like if you're getting all in, you guys are probably you're all gonna have to defend together. Changes things. But if you're not getting all in and it's more of a standard game, you're the only one on your team that's probably not gonna lose anything the whole time because you're defensive the whole time. So if your teammates are doing a good job of pressuring, you're just over here sitting and creep spreading and just building up army. So your overall economy is less important. So again, once you have 1-1 started, you can start an infestation pit. You then start a hive after you have the infestation pit because that's the tech path. You have the option now to go into melee upgrades and carapace and finish it off and start going ultras if you want to try to do that, or you can just go all the way 3/3 range carapace and just max out on Ravagers. And those are your options. That's literally the whole build. So how do you feel? Does it sound good, or any questions?
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. I guess our only question, because I do feel like I struggle with roaches and even ravagers against flying, and I know my one partner is supposed to be anti-flying, but spores, should I be?
Okay, yeah. So
using.
One thing we didn't really touch on is if your teammates, so like you guys should all be obviously like also having overlords around the map a little bit, like maybe one overlord and two overlords at their base, or your teammates that are harassing. If you see any air units early with any type of a scout, you all need to make one static destructure per base. Just one. Like one cannon in the middle line, one turret in the middle line, one spore in the middle of the middle line. And if you guys don't know what's going on, if like you're unsure, basically if you're not getting all in and you haven't scouted enough yet, all of you, every one of you, around 5 minutes, like right at 4:30 if you can, but anywhere between 4:30 to 5 minutes is okay. Make your static destructure in your middle line. All of you do this. So you all should remember that number. 4:30 is when you should start it, and then by 5 minutes you should have it. So Protoss player, make sure you have a pylon that ranges within your mineral line. Zerg is easy. You just make a spore. And Terran, make sure you make. I'll obviously make an engineering bay in your build to make sure you can have a turret in your mineral line. By 4:30. So I actually kind of skipped that. That was my bad. I'm glad you asked that. But yeah, 4:30. Do that. All of you, every base, one static destructure. Because again, it does the thing we talked about in the replay, where it buys time for your air players to come help you. And then check this out too. This is my little tip I'll give you. This is huge for Roach Ravager. Just know 2 things about this unit. Number 1, never cast Corrosive Bile directly at the unit. Okay. Make sure you pay attention to the circle underneath it. So like if you're looking at this game right now and you look at an Overlord that's like right next to my Ravager that's on patrol. Do you notice how there's a circle on the ground for the Overlord next to the Overlord itself? It's like what basically marks where the Overlord is. That circle is where you should shoot Corrosive Bile at, not actually at the Overlord. So if you shoot the Overlord itself, I'll like for instance, if I'm looking at the Overlord with my Ravager, and I shoot what looks like on my screen, that's where the Overlord is. I shoot there. It's not gonna hit the Overlord. That was directly on the Overlord on my screen because I clicked it and it's like, wait, what? It didn't hit it. But if you shoot the circle on the ground underneath it, it will hit the Overlord. So make sure you know that, and you will hit air units this way, and it's very, very important to know that. A lot of people try to shoot the actual animation of the unit itself, and that's not the correct way to do it. You always shoot the circle underneath the unit. Another way to do it is if you haven't watched my intro to Bronze to GM series, it's like an 8-minute video. I highly recommend you go do that. You can literally just go to YouTube and type in ViBE's 2019 intro to Beta GM. Or just go to Twitch or YouTube.tv or Jesus, YouTube.com/ViBELOL. That's just my my YouTube channel. It literally opens with that video. It teaches you how to rapid fire, and if you don't know how to do that, watch that. It's really quick, it's easy, and you can start using rapid fire like this on top of air units, and it's insane. It requires no APM really. It's very, all you have to do is hold a button down and drag your mouse around, and you just throw all your rapid fires out like crazy. And that's how you should be using on air units when you're in big in-game fights like that, and you will crush damage.
Mineral field exhausted.
And that's basically it. That's the whole build.
Got it. Thank you. And I will say I did watch that like 6 months ago
Okay.
when I first started, but I haven't seen it since then.
Yeah. If you don't have rapid fire set up, I recommend you. No one else on the team honestly needs to have it, but you kind of do, because Ravagers without it are like this. They're just like way worse, and you're not going to get nearly as much damage done in a 4v4 when you actually want to have the burst. It's much slower than spamming it like all at once. It'll be much easier in your hands too, because if you're over there like every game like just spamming your mouse and shit like as fast as you can, your teammates are like, "You guys want to play another game?" And you're gonna be like, "No, my hands hurt. I need to stop." All right, so that's the. We'll leave that one now. That's the Roach Ravager one.
Awesome.
All right, then I'll jump into the other Zerg one really fast, the Muta one now, and then finally we'll do the Terran one last. Okay, and then for the Muta one, yeah, I'll have you do more of a standard opener for Zerg, essentially, and then it'll be a. Kind of like a Speedling expand opener with so you have the ability to help with Speedlings if you guys get all in and attacked early, but if you don't get attacked, you make literally no lings at all, and your overlords tell you this, all these things, like you guys are walling the ramps, which is nice, so you'll see if they enter your base, and then you guys have overlords as well. And here's actually a tip I haven't said yet that's really good for both Zerg players that'll make your lives easier as a team in case like something random happens. Basically, with both of your first overlords, try to like just fly across the map towards their bases. Like a great location to have it be would be like just behind the edge of the base on the far side, either on the right or the left. So like the Zerg on the right goes to the right, the Zerg on the left goes to the left with your first overlord. So you can kind of like poke and see who's on the edge of the base, like what race it is, and if it helps set up your harass later on. Your second overlord goes to whatever ramp is closest to you, and sit over the ramp, kind of like in front of it maybe a little bit, just so you can see aggression in case you get proxied. And like
Wait, so sorry. Do you mean our ramp defensively or their ramp?
your ramp defensively.
Like,
so
okay, yeah.
yeah, your second overlord goes to your defensive ramp in front of where your teammate is walling the ramp.
Okay.
And then you're gonna go for a 17 hatch with this build. So you're gonna be the one fast expanding now. You'll probably expand first on your entire team. And this build, the Muta player needs to have more money. So I would say if you guys can, try to let this player take a third. Like you guys can all take a natural, but try to maybe let this player take the third base, the first out of the whole team, because this player probably requires the most money out of everybody. And Mutas are, for Mutas to be effective, you need to have a lot of money, and you need to have it kind of quickly. So you're going to go for a 17 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool. Super standard so far. And then saturate your gas. And this is that moment where if your overlords were spotting aggression, what you'd want to do is your first gas investment would go to Zergling, if they're being aggressive, you go Zergling speed. So Ling speed defends aggression. If they're not being aggressive at all, and you're like, yeah, they look pretty defensive, like they don't look like they're being aggressive at all, you could go into straight up, don't even get Ling speed, skip it, and go straight for a lair after your queen's done. So you don't have to go Ling speed first, is what I'm saying. You will still get it either way, but you don't have to do it first. It's really, if you don't know as well, if you're like unsure about it, If you're like, okay, I don't know, it could be either thing. Just get it if you're not sure. It's not that big of a deal. Just know it's an option for you. It's there as a choice, but you will get it either way. So it's, you know, if you're not sure, just always get it first. And then we're gonna have you take your injects. You're gonna be spending your money, and you're gonna basically wait until after your first inject pops off of your hatcheries, and you're then gonna expand to a third really fast. You're gonna take a layer as soon as you can. Whatever your second 100 gas investment is, get it as soon as you have it. So if you went speed first, you get a layer as soon as you can. If you went layer first, get speed as soon as you can. Either way, it doesn't matter. Just spend the 2 sets of gas as fast as you can on speed and layer. And then now your larva pops off your hatcheries. After your first inject, now you can take a third base. Because now you can actually afford it properly. So you're going to go 3 base super quick. And the second your natural is at 16 out of 16, throw down all of your gas. So we just hit 19. So gas, gas, gas. And now we're exploding in your economy here for mutas.
Sorry, you say all the gases? Do you mean just the main and natural?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the third as
just
well?
the main natural, sorry. Yeah, so
yeah,
third's going to wait a little bit longer.
Okay.
And then we're kind of just waiting for the layer to finish now so we can make our spire. And then it should time out pretty well to when right around the time your layer is done, your spire starts. So it's a really fast spire. And again, if you have to make lings, if you think you're going to die, that's the only time you should make lings. Otherwise, don't make them. And then now we're starting to saturate our third. So we're still making drones. We're not even like saving for mutas yet or anything like that. We're going to fully saturate your third before you make mutas. And we're still making drones. You can start, like, as soon as your third's done, you can start a queen at it. And I would say, as soon as it's done, then start just gas at it. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just time it as best you can. Because you're going to want to saturate it quickly as the drones start to get here. So yeah, the second it's finished, just make your gases. And then do not make mutas, and again, until your third base is fully saturated. That's a big deal. Like, you don't want to have a bad economy. And we're almost there. It'll start going really fast too once you have like 3 bases pumping. And our spire is actually almost done too, so it's timing out really well here. It's almost finished. We need to make like 2 more drones or so, and we're good. Okay, and now with this next larva inject that pops off, we're gonna make all mutas. Get weapon upgrades always with this build, because you're gonna be the one harassing bases, so you definitely want to have damage in your army for your mutas. You definitely don't want to have your mutas like taking forever to kill things. And then whenever you can at this point, you don't need to make more drones than this, like pretty much the whole game, but you can periodically throw down extra bases if you see an open base and it's like you're like, oh, might as well. Whatever. Like, we're about to lose a lot of drones to these banes. It's whatever. I'll make more in a second. But yeah. It's just mutas now. All you're gonna do is you're gonna go harass. And once you kinda like spend your larva pretty well on all your gas and your gas is pretty depleted, just start making overlords and start making zerglings with your excess minerals. And that's all you're gonna do. And just leave your zerglings defensive unless you see very easily, like you're like, oh, look at that base, it's super exposed, I could easily kill that. Go send your lings out there. If your lings die, who gives a shit? They're not really like that important. They're pretty replaceable. It's not actually what the primary of your army is. The primary of your army is your muta. You don't want to lose your muta. So try not to take fights that are going to kill you with your muta. Always be like, oh, open mineral line. Kill all the workers. Run away as soon as I see an opponent. The only time you ever want to take a fight is if it's like, I have 25 mutas. He's got 4 marines. I could easily kill that. So don't take fights that look formidable. Only take fights where it's like easily killed. And if the game does not end and you're struggling to end the game, right around the time when you start your second weapon upgrade on your spire, just get ready to start an infestation pit. So if you do it late, if you do it early, it's okay, because again, time is fine for you guys, because you guys are all going to go death ball eventually. So if this happens at 7 minutes, if it happens at 9 minutes, it's fine. Just just try to pair it. Level 2 weapons on spire with a infestation pit. and then go into a hive as soon as your infestation pit is done. And this allows you to go for Broodlord. So like if you can't, if you're like, okay, my teammate's going carrier, my other teammate's going battlecruiser, I'll just start going Broodlord now, and that's all it would be. So you could stop making mutas at that point in time, but you always have the ability with this build to switch back into going into Mutalisk if you want to, whenever you want. If it feels right, you can be like, yeah, I'm gonna go back into mutas because I could easily go pop a bunch of bases off again. And your job as the muta player, your job as the muta player is to always kill economy whenever you can. That's your main job. Mutas aren't the best army versus army unit, which is why you want to go Broodlords if it's going to come to that. But mutas are amazing at killing economy and harassing behind enemy lines. So if you guys do get attacked, you might actually want to be like, okay guys, you guys can 3v4 them while I am, like, I'll help you with my Zerglings, but I'm going to stay on the other side of the map with my mutas and I'm just going to kill base after base after base after base. And then suddenly, if your teammates defend the 3v4 defensively with a wall and all that stuff, with Roach Ravager bombing their army and shit like that, and then your the enemy team doesn't quite kill you guys and like they get defended, and then when they try to go back and recover from that, you've just killed like 5 of their expansions with your mutas. That's what you should do. The only time it ever makes sense for you to fight with your mutas to help your teammates is if it's something like mass tanks, or just some basically a big army that cannot hit air. Or if it doesn't have splash damage. So if you see like a bunch of Thors or a bunch of, you know, other units that can just AoE mutas, like a bunch of Widow Mines, probably don't help your teammates. Probably just kill their bases instead, if that makes sense. Alright, and then lastly, once you're Hive Tech, prioritize a Greater Spire first, so you have the ability to go Broodlords if you need to. And then once you're Spire as well, start Adrenal Glands for your Zerglings. And just just make an Evo Chamber 2 and just start getting melee upgrades. That way, if you need to use Lings, you can always throw Adrenal weapon upgraded Lings at them if you want to. And you'll never get Carapace, you'll never get range weapons on Evo, you'll just get melee all the way to level 3. And it just makes your mineral expenses better. Because this build's going to have a lot of extra money, it will. Because mutas are always going to be way more gas expensive than anything else you can make. So Lings are going to be how you spend the excess and just help assist defense or assist harassment, and that's all you do. And if you go Broods, all you do then is you fly with your teammates. Make sure you're not ever by yourself. Make sure you're always flying with your teammates' army so that you don't get caught by yourself and die. And Broodlords will be what you guys use to siege and break open bases if your enemy army is like really defensive. And then obviously carrier battlecruiser can support muta. It's not muta, sorry, Broodlord. And Roach Ravager will be kind of in the back as well, just waiting for the enemy army to like stack up. So
cool. And then,
or go ahead.
Oh yeah, so that's all seems really good. I just have one question. Do I stay on around 60 drones the whole time, even if I switch to Broodlords?
Yep.
Okay.
The reason why is because this is why it's different than like Beta GM, and it's because you guys all need economy, and if one of you takes like 80, 90 drones, you're gonna fuck your teammates over. So it's just try to be conservative with your units. The best thing you can do is, instead of just making more money and being wasteful, you're going to now need to just try to make sure your mutas just don't die. Just try not to be in a situation where you're always being like, well, I just lost 10 mutas, let's rebuild 10 more. I lost 10 more, let's rebuild 10 more. Try to be like, I built 30 and I kept them alive for the last 10 minutes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Alright, and that's it for you? That's all you do?
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then lastly, Terran, what are you feeling? What do you want to add into this? You guys already have a good composition though, overall, as a team, because you have an early game player, you have a tech player, you have a air control player. So now Terran can literally do whatever he wants. He can fit in anywhere at this point.
Yeah, definitely open to suggestion. I'm kind of curious about the Banshee mid game.
Okay, so if you go Banshee, what you would do is you do something very similar to what Zerg just did. You'd go Hellions, you would go Banshees. So the Hellions would be like your Zerglings, Banshees would be like your mutas, and you would eventually go into BCs. So your whole build. And then when you go BCs, it would just be BC Hellion. So your Hellions would be the excess minerals of, if you ever want to add in aggression or add in defense, you have the ability to do that. If you need to make Hellbats, you totally can as well, because you can just shapeshift them. And then your ultimate death ball will just turn into BCs no matter what. If that sounds good to you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so we'll do that for you then, and I'll Set it up. Alright, two of you guys need to leave the game really fast so I can start this next one.
Left.
Frenzy, there you go. Good job. You're good. Alright, so your build is going to be... I'm going to have you... I'm gonna have you go for a Hellion opener first, and actually, I have an idea for you. I have a good idea for you, because this is gonna play it out better for you guys to play defensive. I'm gonna actually have you make one tank, just one tank first, and then I'm gonna have you go into Hellions and Banshee BC. And that one tank, you can literally never touch it the whole game. You just make it, you siege it behind the wall to help your teammates. It really will help the Roach Ravager player a lot. I would say if there's one wall, easy, you just put it at the wall. If there are two walls, put your tank at the opposite wall wherever the Roach Ravager player is. So let the Roach Ravager play near his base because his creep will be there. Put your tank at the other wall if there's two walls, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, that's literally all you do. That's you make one tank and then you know you're just gonna go Banshees from there. You're not gonna stay Banshees for too long. You're gonna be actually going BCs pretty fast. Because mass Banshees is pretty awful, but you only need a few. It's not like Vita's in that regard where you need like 20 Banshees. You need like literally like 4 and you're good. And then you also have the option too, if you see, oh, we're getting proxied, the way you could alter your build is you could be like, oh well, I'll just keep making tanks. You just don't go Hellions, just keep making tanks and let your teammates go Lings, Roach Ravager, and like Stalkers, and you just help them with tanks, and you would have an amazing defense with all-ins, like early game proxy all-ins and stuff, and cannon rushes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll have you build depot, and then after depot, start a gas, and then after depot's done, start your barracks. So it's actually depot gas racks. So you're going to be teching really fast this game, so you want to really prioritize your gas. And then I'm going to have you go for... fully saturate your mineral line pretty much. Like get it close to full saturation before you take your second gas. So I'm not gonna have you just rush gas like crazy, because I don't want you to be really bad economy. But the second here's a big one. The second your barracks is done, start an orbital command right away. Like don't start another SCV. This is super important. A lot of people don't realize that, but it really screws you as Terran if you don't do this, because mules are by far 10 times more efficient than SCVs. Like they're so much better. So make sure that's your priority. Make sure you never just be like, oh, I'll make it eventually. You always gotta make sure that's a priority. Now, as soon as the orbital's done and you start making SCVs again, now start another gas as you drop a mule. And you can also right now start a second depot. Make a tech lab on your barracks as you know, your factory's being made, so you can just do an instant quick swap. So it makes your tank come out faster. And then as soon as your gas is done, saturate that right away. Lift your factory off, land it at your tech lab, and now you can start another command center as you make your tank. And then as soon as you have it, start a reactor on your barracks. And now the next thing you're going to do is make a starport when you can afford it while you're still just making SCVs. And just to make you guys all clear here, just know that all of you, your whole team should be going for 3 base economy, except for the Roach Ravager player, who should stay on 2 base economy unless you guys have easily controlled the map, and then he can also go 3 base economy. That's how you guys should play your economies out. So none of you should go 4 base in terms of like how many workers you make. Okay, so we're gonna make a starport. I actually kind of made that awkwardly. I don't know why I did that. Your starport should be made on the tech lab. I don't know why I made it way over here. That was my bad. It was weird. And then you'll also make an engineering bay. Right around the time you make a starport, make your engineering bay so that you have the access to go into a turret. And like I said before, so I didn't show you guys any of the
Can you
the static
1v4
D,
them?
but like I said before, 4:30, all of you make a turret in your middle line. I'll just do it for the Terran, just because that's what you should be doing. But 1 cannon in the middle line, a turret in the middle line, and a spore in the middle line, all of you, and every base you own at 4:30. Okay, and then start a fleet beacon. The second your starport's done, just start a fleet beacon, and it gives you an option now. If you want to make, if you feel like you want to make more banshees, you can. If you feel like you don't want to make more banshees, you don't have to. You and the Protoss player are very similar in the regard that you don't have to commit to like your pressure the whole game. You can tech into your death ball really fast. And then make a turret in the middle line. Make another turret in the middle line. Keep dropping your mules. Keep making your Hellions whenever you can. Hellions are like your least priority. Is if you ever have extra minerals, throw them down. Otherwise, don't make it your priority. Because you're not trying to harass. It's just in case you guys get attacked that'll help you right now. Like you can use to harass later, but you definitely don't want to be harassing right now, just to make your life easy.
Did you start the cloaking right when the starport finished?
I did, yeah. As soon as I landed and started the Banshee, I started cloak. That way, what you can do is when your Banshees are ready to push, I would say don't push until you have cloak. Like, you could just chill with your first Banshee, which is not a bad idea, because if you get attacked, it'll be defensive then, and it'll be nice to keep it here. But as soon as your second Banshee comes out, you can move out with cloak. That way, if you get caught mid-map, you're not going to just die. It's lower chances of dying. And then it's really up to you. This is a judgment call now. If you want to commit really hard to Banshees, you can make up to 4 now, and you could go into the Banshee speed. I would say 4 would be where you want to stop. If you feel like you don't want to be that aggressive and you just want to harass a little bit, don't bother getting that upgrade, and you can immediately start making battle cruisers. Those are then either way though. If you stop at 2 or if you stop at 4 Banshees, you will stop then no matter what. At 4 if you choose to go for Banshee speed, and you'll start making battle cruisers. This game, just because, just whatever, I'll just go for BCs at 2. It's fine. That's what we'll do. And then I'm gonna go into now we're gonna go into like once you start like once your natural mineral line gets pretty well saturated, you can go into a 3rd command center. You can build it near your base. You can always lift it off later. It's fine if you feel like you can't go out of your base. But you will just take a 3rd command center right around the time when you start making BCs. And right around the time when you start making BCs, you'll be having, you'll be getting ready to have more resources ready to go, so you can throw down like 2 more starports. And again, this is the same exact thing for Protoss. However many command centers you have, which will probably be 3, because you can make one like I just did near my natural. That's how many starports you make. So 3 command center, 3 starport. And then as soon as you do the expenses of all of your starports, and you have your BC in production, you can throw down 2 armories, and this will get you ready now to upgrade your BCs. And right around the time when you take your armories, keep in mind upgrades are all the same thing. And if you go, okay, I'm ready to make my upgrades for my BCs, do not forget Yamato Cannon. You don't have to rush Yamato Cannon, but make sure you don't forget it when you start your upgrades. Just make sure you pair that with it. Always think ability plus weapon armor. And then now your whole life as Terran is literally just sitting here and making your BCs. And if you ever do have extra minerals, you can throw down a couple Hellions, but just know that if you ever have a factory that is not currently pumping Hellions out, it's not a big deal. It's not like, oh god, that's really bad. It doesn't matter, because your Hellions are probably the worst unit you guys are going to make as your whole team. Like, you still should make them if you have money for it, but if you skip them for a while, it's pretty irrelevant. So now we started our upgrades. We have 1-1 Yamato Cannon started. We're still making BCs. If you have an open base, definitely take your 3rd with your command center. Just lift it off and go take it. If you can take it too, keep making SCVs to saturate it properly, and so on and so on. You can rotate SCVs as well off your base. And yeah, it's literally it. Just if your Banshees die as well, don't remake them. Don't be like, oh, I gotta remake Banshees because I sent 2 out to his base. I had cloak, but they died. If that happens, fuck it. Just, oh well, they died. Don't stop making BCs at this point. BCs are definitely going to be what's going to benefit you 10 times more. Because your goal now, all your goal is to slow them down a little bit as a team, with your Banshee, and then control them a little bit more. But ultimately, you have like the big BC army of just BC plus upgrades, and that's gonna make your life way easier. And then if you're as Terran as well, this is really easy to do too. I would say you should be the one who does this to make your teammates' lives easier. If you have control of the game and you're like, well, we're not really being pressured and they're not like, you know, I feel good about it. You should go take proxy hidden bases. You should use like you can do up to 3 bases defensively, like we just did with your 3 orbital. Never lift them off. You should actually go take random bases in the middle of nowhere that are way far away from both your enemy and you. It's like basically the corner of the map, and you stop dropping mules at your bases that you already have and start dropping mules only at proxy bases. And why this is important is because not only does it alleviate pressure off your teammates for their economy, so it makes your teammates' lives easier, but you steal money from the more exposed places on the map faster than any other race can do it. And if it gets scouted and it dies, well then it dies. Just try to do it again somewhere else. But you can actually rip money out from the edges of the map, which will make your in-game stronger than your enemy's in-game. Because if you steal money on the map that you both can claim later on, well now that's just gone. And if they need that money now because they mined out their side of the map faster, and your side of the map lasts longer because you did not drop mules all over it, it'll make your guys' late game stronger as a team as well. So that's huge too. That's a great way to make your team's economy flow way better. And then again, all you're doing as well is you're just chilling. Like there's nothing. You are now base defense. You and carrier guy, Protoss, are now. Yeah, we both just gotta make sure no one's dying with our carriers and our BCs. We just play base defense while Muta player is annoying as hell and plays aggressive. Because you like Roach Ravager is like the backbone of the team early on, but you and carrier player become the backbone of the team once you get to like this stage where you both have like 100+ supply of carrier BC, because you guys are actually why you have a god tier army. BC carrier is amazing late game. And then whenever you hide hidden bases too, make sure you make them planetaries. And you like, if you ever have like mineral lines where it's like, let's just say your natural is like fully, like it's getting depleted, your main's getting depleted, whatever. You can always transfer your current SCVs over to the new hidden bases. That's fine. Don't feel the need to make new bases. Like, or sorry, I said that wrong. Don't feel the need to make new SCVs at the new bases. Just use what you have. Because you have plenty of money, is the point I'm trying to make here. Like, you have easily enough money. And if you really need to as well, if you're like, guys, I have a lot of, like, you're definitely gonna, if you're not getting punished for these mules at proxy bases like this, you're gonna have jackpot money income. If your teammates need it, you could definitely feed them some minerals if you want to. Like, it's, by all means, you could totally do that. Because I don't want you to make mass factories. And the reason why I don't want you to make mass factories, which is why this is a little different than Zerg, is factories cost gas and reactors cost gas. And you want to spend all your gas on BCs. That is what's important. So just let it be with the one factory. And you can keep making Hellions if you want out of that. That's fine. But don't prioritize it. Again, just give your teammates money if you need to. And let them make more Zerglings, or let your other teammate make more. Like, maybe even feed your Roach Ravager player a little bit to help him out. So you can actually afford, you know, his shit properly. Like his roaches properly. If he starts running out of money. And that's it. That's really the whole build. That's the last thing you can do too to make your life easier as a team if you want to, is you can throw down like maybe 2 or 3 sensor towers across your guys' base. That'll give you a big net of like vision. If you're, and I would say only do this if your Roach Ravager player is struggling to spread creep, because if your Roach Ravager player has a good creep spread, you don't need it. But if it's like, okay, we're pretty fucking blind right now as a team, we don't really know anything on the map, definitely throw down like maybe 3 sensor towers, one on both sides of your base and one in the center of your base, on the edges of like you know what I mean, like the forward edge of your base closer to the middle of the map, but still on the edge of your base, so it's still in your base, but it's like as far out as it can go. So if you can see my pings, like there would be great, there would be great, and there would be great. And that'll just help you guys be able to see what's happening before it happens. Like, it's like, oh look, they're coming from the top, let's get ready. And you can always scan it. There they are. And it makes you guys position better as a team. And that's your job as Terran. So how's that feel?
Sweet.
Good? Okay, cool.
Yeah, great.
Right.
For all of them, you made me think of with the sharing of minerals. Is there or should we ever be sharing like gas to the muta player to give them
No.
a boost of gas?
Nope.
No.
I would say the only one you really would make sense would be the Terran player feeding the Roach Ravager guy, because he's going to be the poorest one on your team, because he should not expand. And if he ever needs some money, because let's say he took a fight and he lost his army and he needs to replace it, Terran player could help him with mineral only. Do not feed any, like, you guys should not feed each other gas at all until you max out. And then if let's just say 3 of you are maxed and one of you needs to max then, and you're like, he's just like starving, you can feed him then, that's fine. But definitely try to make sure all of you max your own way as fast as you can before you prioritize somebody else.
Got it.
Yeah, because each one of your pieces are just as important as the next. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Any other final questions before we wrap it up?
This
I
is
don't
all.
have any. Yep.
All right.
Nope.
Well,
Not me.
Well,
No, thank you.
dude.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Guys.
It's great.
It was nice meeting all of you. I wish you guys the best of luck in your 4v4 endeavors.
Thanks.
And,
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you in Masters soon.
It sounds good, dude. And thanks for doing a coaching lesson, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
having us.
thank you.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
All right, guys. Boom. There's a coaching lesson. 4v4. That was a little different. It's kind of hard to, you know, I mean, I asked the group a question and everyone's like, oh. It's hard to, like, you know, for the, you know, I just want to make sure I'm trying to get as much information to each one of them as I can. But yeah, I hope you guys like that. That was different. It was a little different. It was that was like a 2-hour lesson as well, which is fine. I've never actually done a 4v4 coaching lesson like that before. So it's unique content, but yeah, it's impossible to do that in an hour. I feel like I kind of quoted that for an hour. There's no fucking way, dude, to really get like thorough information to all 4 people. So much love, though. If you guys are still listening, I appreciate it. Good luck, guys, and thank you again. And thank you guys as well who are watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You can use all these information topics like I just talked about, and apply that to your games with your buddies as well. If you guys are looking to play team games with your own friends. And yeah, guys, I don't know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, good luck and peace out. Later, guys. See you.